Alright, so I'm going to show you a little bit of insight into this gesture pastel drawing project. I decided to make this gesture drawing into a superhero of some sort. So my choices are a little bit creative and going based off of where my gesture lines were. So you'll see kind of how this is going to fit together in a minute. I started just by filling in where I thought the face should be, so I knew that this line here was a little bit too far out, so I just used pastel straight in there to kind of fix that up a little bit. I'm going to add hair to the figure, but I wanted to have kind of this superhero mask, and then some of my areas where I had extra lines here, I decided to make a scarf. So we're going to work on thinking about how to use colors and what colors go together and color mixing. So for the area here for the shadows of the red scarf, I actually put green down first and then layered red over it. So that actually created the shadow of red. You probably wouldn't even notice the green. You can actually see a touch of the green there that didn't get covered up. So using the color mixing is really important for your choices. Also, if you kind of look just at the mask and the scarf, they don't really look like they go together because the mask is kind of purple, blue, and green, and the scarf is red. There's not really anything that ties them together that much right now. But it could be that within the overall costume that I incorporate these colors a little bit better. I think one of the next things I'm going to do is just take a look at this line that I did for the arm here. And for my superhero, I think I'm going to give her kind of a billowy sleeve, like a big puffy sleeve that's going to go along with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off with some white, since I feel like that shirt should be white. And I know that this leg was in front of the arm, so I'm going to have to make sure that I don't cross that area when I'm coloring this in. And I'm not too worried right now if my colors mix together a little bit. I can always fix that up later. So right now, I'm going along the outer contour just to make sure that I have it the way I want it to be. And you can kind of see I'm ignoring some of the lines, but here, that gesture line and this one, I'm actually going to use as part of the shadow of like a wrinkle in the sleeve, which you'll see as I continue working on it. So I'm just going to fill all of this in right here. And I'm just using a firm stroke pressure. I can use a side stroke to fill it in a little bit more, kind of evenly over the whole area. So that's another part of it, is using your techniques appropriately depending on what you're trying to do. So now if I just take a quick zoom out, I can see that that's going to be my sleeve. I do want to add a little bit more to it. So since it's a white sleeve, I can go ahead and use black to fill in some of the contour and some of the shadow areas. So like I said, I'm using those previous gesture strokes as kind of a guide for where that is going to be. This is her hand, which you might say, well, that doesn't look much like a hand, but I will make it look more like a hand. So right now, if this is her wrist, I think I'm going to make kind of a piece that comes out. And then like a puffy part of her sleeve that goes out a little bit more. And you can use your fingers to blend the colors together. So if I want that to be a little bit smoother, or a little bit more of a gradual shadow versus a harsh outline, I can do that. So right here, I think it's too dark on the top for shading. So I can just go back in with some white and go back over it. And it's not going to be pure white just because there's already that black underneath, but at least I can lighten it up a little bit. And I can use a more firm pressure stroke to make it as light as I can. So now you can see it's not nearly as dark as it was. I do want kind of a highlight for the fabric here. And same thing here. So now you can see that I'm changing my loose gesture drawing lines to more purposeful with contour, outer contour, inner contour, and shading with the pastel techniques. I think I'll go ahead and work on this other arm. Since I already did this one in the video, I'm going to go ahead and skip doing this one, and I'll show you the result afterwards. All right, so there's my other arm finished. I just gave it some little billowy puffs around the arm, some shadow. So that's her kind of puffy sleeve that I decided to do. Now I'm going to take a look at filling in kind of her costume a little bit. So I'm going to go back with that light green that I had from the mask to make sure that her whole costume looks like it actually goes together. You can kind of see the line of the skirt here that I had originally. So I think I'm going to give that a little bit of a green outline. And then you can also kind of see where these lines here give it some of that rhythm and movement that I'm looking for in the rubric as well. So with this light green, I'm going to put down in between those areas where I think there'll be some highlights for where the fabric wrinkles are going up. Okay, and then also on the front of her outfit up top, I'm just going to do a little bit of a side stroke just to give it a little bit of that hint of green. So this is where some color mixing is going to come into play. Now since I already have the red put down, I have to be careful not to mix the red and the green because then her outfit's going to turn brown. Okay, next I can get this darker green if I want to do some different color of her outfit. Now you can kind of see that the pastel stick isn't perfectly straight because it's doing those two lines. So I can kind of try to find a different side to it or go back and forth this way. That's actually working better, to go back and forth long ways. And I can just go all the way up to the edge here. Okay, now the opposite of the color wheel of green is red, so I will want to use a little bit of red for the shadows or wrinkles in the dress. So wherever I've got these lines, I'm going to go ahead and use that to show where the wrinkles are. Now right now it might look kind of weird because it looks red still, but I'll be adding green back over it. I'm actually going to add some of the wrinkles up here a little bit too. I'm going to be adding green back over it to show that. And even here along the scarf, that might be a good idea to make some shadow underneath where the scarf is. So I'm just very lightly pushing down. I'm not using a lot of firm pressure like I did up here. Now I'm going to go back in with my dark green. All right, so what I did here was I had the red laid down first, and then I used the dark green over the red. So I'll show you over kind of here. I'm adding more green than I did for red because I want it to be a value of green and not look red. I'm just wanting to make the green darker. So now you can see if I back away a little bit, that dark value of green that was on the left side, that actually looks like a dark green versus being red lines anymore. So I'm using light pressure. So remember, you used varying pressure. I'm now using light pressure to make sure that those colors mix together. And because I have this highlight here, I don't want it to be like stripes. I need to use some light pressure with this green on top of the light green. And I'm also making sure the direction of my strokes goes with the directions of my lines, because if I go the opposite way, then it's going to blend the colors together, and I want to keep those line directions the same that I've already put in. So already you can see that I'm still using outer contour, inner contour, and value to create this costume.